The term West Ham legend is overused, I think, but I think in this context, it's not. I'm about to introduce you to a former player who I'm going to make him feel a little bit old now. Ridiculously, he looks younger than me, which I don't know how he's managed that, quite frankly. But this is a player who I saw play at Upton Park on my first ever trip there. And just see him play, he scored 4 goals. I wonder if he knows which game it is. I'm going to bring him in now. It's Mr. Tony Cottee. Hello, mate.
Gonzo, of course I know what game it was. It was the Bury game when we won 10-0. If that was your first game, then wow, what a game. Because you can only ever go downhill after the 10-0 victory, can't it? So,
which is
long time
which
ago,
is exactly, it was, yeah, it was 83, I think. And it was a marvellous introduction. And I did. I went to, I think my next game was next to my dad. And I was tugging him on the arm, said, Dad, when are West Ham going to score next? We didn't, which is fine. But I'm not blaming you. You certainly scored plenty. Thanks for joining us today, mate. You're joining us. I've got a load of questions for you here, which have been submitted by people from the various forums and whatnot. And it's about your involvement now with PAI Capital or PAI Capital.
PAI Capital.
It's PAI Capital, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Just before we get started, because I know obviously Rio is involved and so's Anton. There's some fans that's created a little bit of a stir with Rio being involved. I take it you're not part of the bandwagon which has been started to get Declan to Manchester United.
No, absolutely not, Gonzo. No, I mean, it's probably worth just giving you a little bit of background of how I sort of got involved with the guys. I had a phone call approximately 10 days ago from one of the senior partners at PAI Capital saying that we want to meet you, we want to talk to you. I met the guys on Thursday, had a long meeting, pretty much with them all day on Thursday. And of course, the press statement came out on Friday, which most people would have seen by now, I'm guessing.
Yes.
But I can make it quite clear that on Thursday, one of the things I was banging the drum about was Declan Rice needs to stay at our football club. And I want to make that quite clear. I want to see him there for a long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think I was one of the first questions actually. So PAI Capital approached yourself. Have you met the basically the head investor there, which is Mr. Pirev?
Yes. Yep, I met Nasib on Thursday. I met Philip Beard on Thursday. I met one of the other senior partners. I also met Anton, and we also spoke to Rio on a Zoom call. So, yes, I met and spoke to everyone on Thursday.
I've got to ask this question, really. Does Rio appreciate it? I mean, Anton, I think you've almost got to treat them as separate identities, and I certainly felt with the PAI Capital involvement of Anton and Ferdinand, it was a case of involving the Ferdinand brothers without sort of realising there was a sort of difference, and they're viewed a little bit differently by West Ham fans. Does Rio appreciate that maybe him banging a drum about Declan Rice going to Man United's not particularly well received?
Yeah, listen, I think everyone at PAI Capital is probably aware of that. I've been brought in to try and liaise with the fans, to try and talk to the fans and try and get the fans to understand where PAI Capital are coming from. So, that's part of, my remit, if you like, to do that. So, listen, Rio said what he said. You've also got to remember he's a broadcaster as well. He's got to say with his broadcasting hat on. But what I would say about both Rio and Anton, and I know this for a fact, is they want what's best for West Ham United Football Club. And I think it's important that everyone knows that, listens to what I'm saying. But I also appreciate Rio does have another job to do when he's working on the TV.
Sure, fine. Difficult question. I appreciate that, but I've been asked to ask it. Are you being paid by PAI Capital? Are you on the payroll? Have you got a job with them now, basically?
Okay, right. I've got to nip this one in the bud, Gonzo, because it's been I know it's been doing the rounds and everything. Yep. I want to clarify this. I am not getting a single penny off of PAI Capital. And when I went to that meeting on Thursday, I didn't go with the intention of getting a single penny off the group. They didn't offer it. I didn't ask for it. That is not why I went to see them. What I can confirm, and I'm really excited about this, is that if, and obviously it's a big if the takeover does complete and does go through, I will be a part of the club going forward. I will be in a full-time role, yet to be clarified, because it's still obviously really early days and you don't want to talk about something that's hypothetical at the moment. But I want to reassure the fans that I didn't go in there and say, I'm going to try and get you to get the club and then I'm going to walk away. That is not the case. I will be part of the club going forward. Anton will be part of the club going forward, and Rio will be doing his role as well going forward. So we will all have different roles, mainly obviously involving the football side of things. But I think in the meantime, you know, what PAI Capital have asked me to do is to come on and talk to guys like yourself and try and get a little bit of warmth to the bid and sort of explain that they're not horrible guys trying to sort of strip the club of every asset, etc. That is not what they're about. They are coming into the club and they want what's best for West Ham United Football Club.
Well, I appreciate that, mate, and I appreciate you. You know, I mean, the questions came up on Claret and Hugh, and I appreciate it's a question about your wages, but I appreciate that. So thank you for answering.
No, that's 100%. I'm not getting a single penny, Gonzo. I've said it, and that's it, 100%.
Okay, no, thank you, mate. I do appreciate that.
I only intend to get paid for doing this.
Well, that's interesting. So going forward, actually, and this wasn't one of the questions, but just off the back of what you said, Rio and Anton would be involved in the club in a football capacity in some way. They would have a job, basically.
Yeah, all the roles have yet to be confirmed, and we're not trying to get too. You can't get too carried away with something, can you? You know, like we all want things in life, and you know, the worst thing to do is to start getting carried away and we could do this and do that. You know, there'll be plenty of time for us all to sit down and work out exactly who's going to do what, myself included. I know particularly Anton has got a real thing about the academy. As I have as well, and that's going to be a really important thing going forward, that we develop the academy, we get the players, we get the conveyor belt going again, we sort out the scouting network, etc. That's a real passion for Anton, and I think in terms of like developing the brand as such, and I know the fans don't really like to hear that word, the brand, but listen, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, Man United, everyone's doing it. And everyone's trying to bring more revenue into the football club. And if you need a worldwide brand ambassador, Rio Ferdinand will tick all the boxes and he will get us into places and get money back into the football club that other people can't do. And my point being with the brand is if you get more money coming into the football club, you've got more money to spend on new players. And ultimately, that's what most of the fans want to know. How much you're going to spend on new players.
Well, that sort of feeds into the next question's coming in a little while. Okay, so a Golden Sullivan have been criticised quite widely for taking money out of the club and sort of, if you want, running it on a sustainability model, which is basically the club have to earn the money. They're not. I don't think as owners they can afford to take their personal wealth and bankroll the club to move us up to the next level. I think that's fair to say that. They've been criticised because what they do is they earn money out of interest and they take that back for themselves. PAI Capital, as I understand it, is an investment fund with investors who are looking to invest. Surely those investors want a return. So is this not a similar sort of sustainability model to how Golden Sullivan are running it, basically, where money goes out of the club and goes back to the investors?
Yeah, but everyone wants a return. I mean, ultimately, Gonzo, this is a business, isn't it? I mean, football, yeah, of course, it's a sport. It's a sport that we all love passionately. But if it's a business, which it is, and you know, every other football club in the Premier League will be run on a similar basis, unless you've got the sheikh or whatever chucking loads of money in and whatever. Yes. You know, that's obviously on a different level. You know, but there's what I can confirm is that the PAI Capital had access to the club's data room for 2 months. Now, in that 2 months, obviously they can see all what's going on, all what's going in, all what's going out, all the problems, all the good things, etc. And they would have had a really good look at that. And what they have done is they've developed a business plan so that if we take over, it's not just going to be something chucked together in about 24 hours or something. You know, there's a business plan already in place. And yeah, you're right about what you're saying, but ultimately you've got to understand that the guys are going to be raising a lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of money if we can buy the football club. And then, of course, going forward, you want the club to make as much money as possible, as I've been saying. And the more money that comes into the club revenue-wise, the more we can spend on new players. And that is where I'm coming from. First and foremost, I'm a football man. I want us to be successful on the football pitch, as we all do.
And for that reason, I'm not going to get overly involved in the talks. There's been a lot of talk about the Olympic Park and the surrounding area.
Plans will be revealed, Gonzo. You can't reveal plans when you don't own something. You know, all the plans and who's involved, and it will all become, clear who's doing what and how it's going to work, and it will all be for the benefit of the football club. That is what I made it quite clear on Thursday. I want what's best for the football club. I keep saying it. That is what I'm in this for, to get what's best for the football club.
I don't think anyone would doubt that, Tony, to be honest with you. There's a second bid this week. Have I got that right, or can you not disclose that?
At some stage this week, that will be true, yeah.
Okay, I understand you can't talk about that overly. Now, PAI say there's significant transfer budget available. I understand you won't go into specifics. I understand a lot of this was said before you actually joined up with them. Is it significant in terms of strengthening it to such an extent that we can compete with the other clubs? Because I think it's fair to say, for me, I say this is my opinion. I think the transition to the Olympic Stadium has not been a success. I think a lot of us thought that the transition there would give us the money. That's why we agreed to leave Upton Park, to give us the money that would then compete with Chelsea and Arsenal and so on and so forth. When we're talking investment, are we going to be able to have enough transfer funds to, on a regular basis in transfer windows, compete with those sort of transfer values that are outlaid?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, the clubs you mentioned are well established, aren't they? And they've also got multi-billion-pound owners that, I mean, Roman's chucked so much money into Chelsea, as we all know. So, you know, you're already playing catch up. You know, listen, even if I knew the amount, I wouldn't tell you the amount, because if I told you how much is going to be in the transfer kitty, Gonzo, then we'd have every other club, and that player that we're looking at for 10 million will be worth 20 million because they know we've got a stack load of money. It's not how it's going to work out. All I can say is that I believe that if we were in charge at this precise moment in time, I think Jesse Lingard will be a West Ham United player. And I'd like to think that we would have had a good shout of getting someone like Tammy Abraham to come to our football club. We all know we need a centre forward at the football club, you know. But if there's no money to buy players, David Moyes can't buy players. So we're hopeful, and you know, let's be honest, it's going to be a miracle if anything's done this side of the transfer window closing, which is obviously in 7-8 days' time. But going forward, in answer to your question, yes, there will be sustainable funds in the pot for the manager to spend on players. But I'm not going to reveal that. Even if I did know, I'm not going to tell you how much that would be.
No.
But we've got to be in there. Listen, we want our club to consistently finish in the top 10. I think that's the first thing you want as a West Ham fan. And ultimately, you want the club to be trying to qualify for Europe every single season. To do that, you've got to finish in the top 6. You're already up against the top 6 without mentioning Leicester, Everton, Wolves, Aston Villa, etc. So you've got to be, yes, you're right, you've got to be in the market for 25, 30 million players. Otherwise, you won't be qualifying for Europe. If you don't qualify for Europe, you're going to be losing star players, and we all know who I'm talking about.
No, yeah, absolutely. We discussed him at the start. I mean, well, the thing is, we have had a top 6 finish this last season, so you've got to go above and beyond that, or at least match it. So I take it that's the target.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, listen, I've said as a fan, you want to improve every season. If you finish 6th, you know, if you go into the next season thinking, oh, we're finished 7th, then firstly, you shouldn't be running a football club, and secondly, you shouldn't be managing or playing at the football club, because you know you've got to have targets, and we all know how difficult it is, Gonzo. It's tough out there. It really is tough. You know, football is it's gone on to a different level since I retired 20 years ago, and it's really tough. But you know, we've seen Leicester do it. Leicester finished 5th, and arguably probably should have been in the Champions League the last 2 seasons. I mean, in terms of their league position, they lost the last game of the season, and otherwise they'd have been in the top 4. So, you know, Leicester is a very well-run club, and
yes,
you know,
yes, it is.
If you do it properly, and this is what we are looking at PAI Capital, if you do it properly, you can put a sustainable model in place that allows you to compete and try and get in there with the big boys, which is what we all want. We all dream of the day that West Ham playing the Champions League. They won't have empty seats and all that when they're playing the Champions League music at the London Stadium. You know, you will have full houses. We get full houses anyway. You won't. You know, I always say if West Ham are successful, 66,000 is not enough. It's not enough capacity. You would need more than that if West Ham are playing in the Champions League. That's how big a club it is.
To talk about the stadium for a second, I think a lot is said about the stadium and the surrounding area. And I think certainly there's a lot been spoke about the Olympic Park. And I take it you listened to the TalkSport interview with Philip Beard was on there the other day. Jim White, for once, sort of had it right on there, which was the fans don't care about the Olympic Park, but they do care about the stadium. And lots of small things are spoken about the stadium, but there's one big issue with the stadium, and it's a massive one, and it's the seats are too far away from the pitch. Even the latest reconfiguration has brought them marginally closer. We're nowhere near close enough. Would that be something you'd look to do, which would bring all the seats closer?
Yeah, it's something that I spoke about, I asked about. You know, I went into that meeting, as I say, with my fans hat on, and I'm asking a question, and it was one of the first things I asked about was the stadium. There are exciting plans in place to try and improve the fan experience. We all know what we're talking about, Gonzo. You know what I'm talking about. You know, I can't go into specific detail, but what I can reassure the fans is that is something that I specifically asked about, and something that we all want to happen. And, you know, I grew up and you grew up watching me score 4 goals against Bury where the fans were 2 yards from the pitch, weren't they?
I was right behind the goal, yeah.
I was, right, okay. But listen, you know, we probably can't go back to that era where you are 2 yards from the playing area. But we all know that, you know, it is too far away at the moment, and there needs to be something done, put in place. To do that, you need to at least have the ability to make the changes at the football stadium. At the moment, the club are renting the stadium and they cannot do anything, and that's the difference, I would say. If you're in a position where you can make changes, then you can look to address exactly the problems that you're talking about in terms of how far away the seats are.
Okay. I just wanted a couple of things. One of them's a PR. Firstly, we've got to deal with this because it's the elephant in the room. Proof of funds. Okay. Yeah. Sullivan says there's no proof of funds. Philip Beard, TalkSport the other day, said we provided proof of funds. Who's lying?
Well, I'm not saying anyone's lying, but what I would say is proof of funds, you can't get access to the data room unless you show proof of funds, because David Sullivan wouldn't allow that. So if PAI Capital have had access to the data room for 2 months, which they did, then that tells me that they showed proof of funds, because they wouldn't have been allowed in otherwise. Listen, David's made a statement, that's his prerogative. He's come out and said these things. As a result of that, the PAI Capital bid became public knowledge. And that is not what they wanted. They didn't want that. Philip Beard didn't want to go onto TalkSport and have to try and defend things. Nazib didn't want to make statements. They didn't want to do that, but they've had to do it. So they've been put on the back foot a little bit, I think it's fair to say, from a PR point of view. But I'm trying to come on here and try and explain that there was proof of funds and there was access given to the data room. I've already said that. So, yeah, I can clarify that's the case.
Okay, but cheers. Or to be fair, from a PR point of view, you're doing a much better job, certainly. As I think it's been an abomination, actually, some of the stuff. Because I think Golden Sullivan's PR's bad. I mean, I really do. Yeah. But PAI's has been so bad, you've made them look almost competent.
So you've got to understand that it wasn't something that perhaps, they was used to, was expecting. And to be fair to Philip Beard, I watched and saw the TalkSport interview. And to be fair to Philip Beard, he's under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. There's only certain things he can say. So if you whether he should have gone on there or not, if that's Philip's choice and up to him and whatever, and you can argue whether he should or he shouldn't have. But, when you've got someone who's very good, like Simon Jordan and Jim White as well, when they're asking the questions, there's only so much you can say. There's only so much I can say to you guys today. I'd love to sit here and tell you absolutely everything that's going on, but I can't do that because you can't preempt what's going to happen. So, in terms of the PR, it's obviously something that we're going to look to improve over the course of the next few weeks.
Okay. I didn't think the TalkSport one was too bad, to be fair. I was talking about before that, the way it all went over Twitter. And there's one I want to talk about, which I know you've been brought on to help liaise with the fans. So I know this is before you came in, but I thought it was terrible. And you probably know what I'm going to say. An hour and 7 minutes before kickoff against Newcastle, they tweeted 3 times that they were going to launch a second takeover. Now, it seemed, and it appeared from my point of view, that it was, at worst, it was mischief making. At best, it was poorly timed and indicated that they didn't know that there was a game coming on. That wasn't a good bit of PR. Have you spoken to them about that? Because I thought that was bad.
They've got to learn their lesson. Yeah, everyone has to learn lessons. If you make a mistake, and listen, we spoke earlier, and you said about we didn't want to put anything out on a match day, and I said to you, I said I want to do the interview today because I want to keep it. Listen, everyone wants to commit to the. I'm going to the game tomorrow. I'm going as a fan. I want to see West Ham beat Leicester tomorrow. But West Ham's my team. That's what I want to say. I'm not coming on here and talking to you guys to cause problems. What I'm trying to do, and I'm not talking to the national press, I'm not going on TalkSport, I'm not going on Sky Sport, I'm not doing that. I'm purely talking to West Ham people like yourself who spread the word and spread the message about what is going on. So, yes, there's lessons that need to be learned and that. And if I can help with that, with my background of the last 20 years of working in the media, I will do my very best to try and, if there was things done wrong, we'll try not to make those mistakes going forward.
Okay, no, but that's great, and we'll help you get this. This video won't be edited at all, apart from a bit at the start when I drop my headphones aside. We'll just it'll just go out, as we've recorded it. I mean, because so much of this is being played out in the media. Have people actually thought now that, bearing in mind so much of it has, possibly it's got David Sullivan's backup. He's already said he doesn't want to sell. How do you intend to bring him to the negotiating table, basically?
Well, again, it's not something I can really discuss too much, Gonzo. What David Sullivan does with the football club, he's the majority shareholder, as we all know. He makes a lot of the decisions at the football club. It's up to David. David's got to work out for himself whether this is the right thing for the football club. And ultimately, I hope that he comes to the same conclusion as me, that these guys are proper good guys. They are trying to take the club forward. They do want what's best for the football club. And I hope he comes to that conclusion. But, no one can make David Sullivan do anything. It is David's choice. He's in the driving seat, if you like, and we'll have to wait and see what he says.
Can I just ask you a question, Tony, whilst you're on, if you don't mind? I know it's clear you've got West Ham's best interests at heart. You've been involved in consortium bids before, though, right?
Yeah.
What's your motivation for this? And I've sort of got one final question afterwards, if you don't mind.
My motivation is to be involved in a football club, as I've said. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid to talk to you. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing it for that. What I've wanted to do, and you're quite right. I was involved with the Landsbanki. I've been in talks with other people all along the last 15 years, really. And I was so gutted that I never got to be a part of the club 15 years ago. Everything that happened with Landsbanki, I put everything together, and I mean everything, put it all together, and they decided right at the last minute, why do we need a football person involved at a football club? Which to me is absolute stupidity, and was proven by some of the signings that they made and some of the, the wages that they paid. They went into it, bankers trying to run a football club. And, my motivation in all this is to try and get what I've always wanted, which is to return to my spiritual home, my club, and try and help my club to win something before I die. And that is my aim. I've said, I'll say it again, I want West Ham to try and win something, and I want England to try and win something. We nearly got in the summer, didn't we, in the Euro final, but we're still holding our breath with England. But, all jokes aside, I want what's best for the football club. It's my passion in life. It was my first love in life, and I want to, as I've said, I will, if it goes through, I'll have a role at the club, which is yet to be confirmed, but I want to be a part of it, and I want to try and help make the club successful and try and win something. I was at Wembley in 1980 when they beat Arsenal. It was one of the best days of my life. But there's been very few days like that. There've been so few and far between since then, and we want to try and put that right. That's my motivation. That's what I want for the football club.
So I know you're short for time here. Just talking about the team itself, talking about David Moyes and not only the backroom staff that he's put into place, which I think have been exceptional, by the way. He also seems to be trying to build a scouting network. He seems to be trying to build a club in his own image, almost, let's be fair, in that old style, Tony, that old managers used to do, rather than the current coaches who seem to just deal with the first team. David Moyes seems to want to get his hands over everything. And I think the club's needed it, to be fair, because I don't think it's been... You look at what happened with Huselos and the way that we didn't have any scouting data and stuff like that. So I think David Moyes, I think the appointment of Moyes has been an excellent thing. I like what he's doing. If you did get control of the club, would he stay in place? Would that team surround him stay in place? And would you allow him to basically continue the restructuring of the club, which is what it appears from the outside he seems to be wanting to do?
Of course we would. Listen, we want what's best for the football club. We've just had one of the best seasons in the club's history in terms of league performances. We're going into a season in Europe, and we've got a fantastic manager in charge of our football club. And, David's trying to create what he did at Everton so successfully. He was there for 11 years, and he was hands-on with everything he did. He's a wonderful guy. I've had the pleasure of being in his company quite a few times now. He's a fantastic manager, and he gets it. I think he gets it. And that's really important as a West Ham fan, that you have a manager in place who understands the culture of the club, what it means to the fans, and how to take it forward. And that, and we're long overdue. Like the great John Lyall. When you first started going, we had the great John Lyall in place. Before that, we had Ron Greenwood in place, and we want to try and create a legacy, if you like. Someone who's in the club. What do you want to keep changing managers for? It doesn't work. The only club it probably works for is Chelsea, and we all know why it works for them. But most other clubs, if you keep changing the manager, it doesn't work. We will not be changing David Moyes. Why on earth would we do that? He's done a fantastic job. What we want to do, we want to go in and support David Moyes and try and give him some more money so that he can buy the Jesse Lingards that he wants to get into the squad to make the team better anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't everybody would agree with trying to get Jesse Lingard in, that's for sure. It certainly has dragged on. I'm not convinced, by the way, that's dead in the water. I've got an inkling that we may well get some last-minute flurry of activity on that particular score, but we'll have to see. I believe he's in the Man U squad today, actually. So just to outline your vision, Tony, or the vision of PAI Capital, you want to take control of the stadium, you want to take control of the park, and you believe, to paraphrase, that this will increase extra revenue, which could help the club basically reinvest more funds into the club. But of course, there are investors in there who will also be eventually taking out a share as well and looking to build it up. But you're convinced, even with that money coming out, you could probably do a better job than those in there at the moment. With all that in mind, and please tell me if I got any of that wrong, are you confident that this deal, can you do it? Can this still happen? Do you think it will go through? Do you think in 6 months' time that we'll be sitting here maybe having another chat with you literally being on the board or something like that, and PAI being in charge of West Ham?
Gonzo, listen, I'm not a mind reader. I can't answer that. The only person who can answer the question about whether it will happen and make it happen is David Sullivan. You know, PAI Capital can only do so much. They've already done so much, and they will be doing some other things to try and make that happen. And hopefully we will get the end product that we want. In terms of going forward, I think it's quite clear that, you know, that the club itself has to improve on certain things. I think we need to take a good look at the training ground. We need to look at the infrastructure, the academy, the scouting system, something that Anton will be very closely involved with. I've already spoke about the worldwide brand in terms of bringing Rio to the table and getting more money to come in from that point of view. We've spoken about the stadium. It's really important that the stadium make the fans happy. If you want the fans to come and watch a game at the London Stadium, make them happy. What does it take to make the fans happy? There's got to be a lot more correspondence. Listen to the fans as well, and then try and put that into place to make it happen. That's another aim as well. And then finally, all those things that I've said in terms of bringing revenue into the football club, probably most importantly, we need to have the ability to compete in the transfer market. We need to be able to say to David Moyes, there you go, you can go and get Jesse, you can go and get Tammy. You know, that's what we would like to try and do. That's not going to happen straight away, obviously, because it's, you know, everything's run on a bit now. But hopefully going forward, that is the aim of the football club. And me personally, yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. I don't know what role it's going to be, but I want to be a part of it. And I want to see a successful West Ham United football club. I hate this fighting relegation every other season. It does my head in. It does everyone's head in. We need to have stability at the football club where we are consistently trying to get into Europe. We won't do it every year. We won't win a cup every year. We won't get into Europe every year. We know that. But we can try, and that's got to be the ambition. And to do that, a lot of restructuring needs to take place, and we need to get more revenue into the club to allow there to be more money into the transfer pot.
Cheers, Tony. Just this is fine. I know I've said just finally a couple of times. We talked about due diligence earlier, and the club do their due diligence. Just your own due diligence on PAI Capital. Bearing in mind you've been invited along, got to look into the whites of their eyes. You got to hear their vision.
Yeah.
Let's say they'd have been crap, right? Let's say they'd have been rubbish, and actually what they were peddling was not something that appealed to you. Would you have walked away?
Yes. Yeah.
And how impressed were you by what they said?
Yeah, of course I'd have walked away because, listen, I've put my reputation at stake. As I said, I'm not getting paid for this. It ain't like they've given me a stack load of money and I'm talking to you thinking, oh, happy days, I can talk a load of rubbish and I'm getting paid for it. That's not the case. I've put my reputation on the line here. I did look in the whites of their eyes and I was really, really impressed with the team. Really, really impressed. And I felt like I'd been a part of the team, even though obviously I hadn't. You feel like I was welcomed. I loved their ideas. Me and Anton were saying exactly the same things in the meeting. And there's a lot of really, really good stuff that we can all get our teeth into to make the club a better place. And hopefully, as I say, go on and try and achieve something because that's what we all want. So, I hope it happens. I personally can't make it happen. It's down to other people now. But hopefully, we might have some news later in the week. I don't know, but, hopefully things will happen.
Mate, Tony, thanks, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for answering everyone's questions. Really appreciate it. Some of them are a bit awkward about your wages and whatnot, but I do appreciate your candid.
Oh, God, no, that's fine. Listen, I said to you, you've asked me whatever you want. Absolutely fine. It's not a problem in that. And I'm just trying to reassure the fans that I believe that this potentially could be something really, really good for the football club. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just try and get the fans to just try and be patient, hopefully let nature take its course and then we can all have a good time. And I want to look forward to the European tour. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think we've got the draw coming up on Friday. So I'll be at Leicester game on Monday. The draw's on Friday. I'll be at the Palace game on Saturday. So although I'm not really in employment at the moment, at least I've got my beloved West Ham to take me through the weeks and the months.
You're doing all right, keeping you busy. Well, listen, good luck. Enjoy the game on Monday. I hope you enjoy the game on Monday because if you've enjoyed it, it'll be another win. Let's be fair. We all need another win. And thanks, Tony, so much for joining us and giving us all your opinions. And we'll catch up very soon.
Cheers, Gonzo. Thanks, mate.